You are listening to Christian Audio's production of Faith Alone, the Evangelical Doctrine of Justification by R.C. Sproul. This book is read by Bob Souer. This audio recording was produced in 2017 by Christian Audio, which owns the copyright. No portion of this recording may be reproduced for any reason without prior written consent from Christian Audio. This edition, issued by contractual arrangement with R.C. Sproul, originally published by Baker Books, a division of Baker Publishing Group, as Faith Alone, the Evangelical Doctrine of Justification, copyright 1995 by R.C. Sproul, all rights reserved. Please visit christianaudio.com, facebook.com/christianaudio, or twitter.com/christianaudio to offer your impressions of this work and to explore additional titles. Forward. While only a generation ago, Roman Catholics and Protestants rarely found their way into each other's spiritual company, we now see them praying and reading Scripture together and joining hearts, heads, and hands in the struggle against secularism. With the Catholic creeds as a basis for co-belligerence, this grassroots ecumenism has produced much fruit. But it has also led to some rather naive lurches that substitute appearances of unity in the gospel for the reality. As today's political and moral struggles often form the basis for common action, the charismatic movement had already provided the tendency to relativize doctrinal distinctives and create a common basis in experience. The evangelistic energy of evangelical Protestants has added the tendency to bury concern over the actual content of the evangel. One might say that in all of the activity, evangelism is too busy to be troubled with the evangel. In his broadly representative crusades, the Reverend Billy Graham was simply following in the footsteps of an earlier generation of evangelicals whose missionary and evangelistic zeal encouraged them to play down doctrinal issues when founding the World Council of Churches. Reverend Graham recently reasserted his view of Roman Catholicism. I have found that my beliefs are essentially the same as those of Orthodox Roman Catholics. After decades of scurrilous caricatures and misinformation, Roman Catholics and Protestants are finally speaking to each other, and this is revealing a greater variety of viewpoints within both camps. It is also revealing, A, how little most Protestants know about their own convictions, and B, with what great ease they find the concerns raised by the Reformation to be simply irrelevant. How can this be? Has Rome's position changed? In fact, it has not. The Vatican II documents, as well as the new Catechism of the Catholic Church, re-invoke the theological position of the Council of Trent, condemning the gospel of justification by an imputed righteousness. If it is not Rome that has altered its position in favor of the gospel, then it must be the other partner that has moved from its earlier position. According to George Barna, James Hunter, and others who have surveyed the drift in evangelical conviction, evangelicalism is redefining itself doctrinally. From its views of the self, 77% of evangelicals say that man is basically good by nature, to its views of salvation, 87% insist that in salvation God helps those who help themselves. Evangelicalism has every reason to adopt a more sympathetic attitude toward Rome. After all, the concerns raised by the Reformers, and by those today who believe that the gospel taught in the Scripture in 1517 is still taught in Scripture now, were not expressions of bigotry or party spirit. The gospel defines the church, not vice versa, they insisted, and in our day we must defend the gospel without concern for party labels. If we come to believe that the formula, justification by grace alone through faith alone because of Christ alone, is no longer adequate or foundational for the Christian message, then only spiritual pride would keep us from pursuing a common evangelistic and missionary strategy. But if that is, in fact, the teaching of Scripture, then an evangelical Protestant who obscures, denies, or fails to defend the doctrine of justification is as unfaithful to the gospel as a Roman Catholic in the same position. Rome still believes what it did on that day in 1564 when it condemned the evangelical truth and those who maintain it. This is no surprise in a body that claims its decisions to be infallible and irreformable. But when the heirs of the Protestant reformers no longer find this doctrine essential or central in defining the gospel, this is cause for deep sorrow and lament. In our day, it is common moral or
Sample complete. Ready to continue?